Hey everybody, I'm going to review this PowerPoint from last week on the field of early childhood education. You took a look at this on your own. Now I'm going to break it down a bit deeper. So this is what I'm going to discuss in this PowerPoint. It might be one or two PowerPoints depending on how long it takes me to get through each slide, so hang in there. We're going to look at the field of ECE as a profession, what oversight in the field looks like, our federal funding, and I'll share a little bit about the Race to the Top grant. We'll talk about our quality rating and improvement system in Washington State, which you know as Early Achievers. I will share some information about the Washington State Early Learning and Development Guidelines. I'll walk you through how to register yourself in Merit and create a STARS ID. You'll need this if you're going to stay in our program and do our practicums and our student teaching. It'll registers you for the Washington State Professional Development System, and we'll walk you through getting your background check done. And then we'll talk about the trilemma, which you will read about this week, and that has to do with compensation, affordability, and quality in early childhood education. And I'll tell you why it's a trilemma. So let's first describe the difference between a field and a profession. We're working hard right now in early childhood education to define this field as a profession. We're moving away from just being a field of study or a field of work to professionalizing early childhood education. So a field is not necessarily self-organized. There's loose preparation and accountability. That is changing with early childhood education. And there are varied levels of quality. And if you've worked in childcare, you've probably seen that, especially if you've worked in multiple centers. There's varied levels of quality depending on how well the teachers are prepared, how well the director runs the program. And that all comes back to what education do these folks have. In a profession is self-governed. In ECE, we have the National Association for the Education of Young Children that sets our professional standards and is a way that we as professionals hold ourselves accountable to the field. There's consistent quality. This is a struggle in early childhood education because we still have so many varied levels of quality, and that has to do with the level of education that those in the field have. And there's been loose preparation and accountability thus far in the field. Now we're starting to see with early achievers and with some changes in state legislation around early childhood teacher preparation, we're starting to see folks having to have at least an initial certificate to be an assistant teacher, the state cert to be a lead teacher, an associate's degree to be a director, and some programs are even, especially like Head Start and ECAP, are leaning towards teachers having to have their bachelor's degree in early childhood education. So that's changing. And professions like medicine, nursing, architecture, dentistry, engineering, and physical therapy, they all have they're self-governed, they have consistent quality, evidence-informed standards of practice. And so we're trying to work towards defining that for early childhood education. So why is that important? Well, the education of young children used to be seen as daycare, and it used to be really loosely defined as just providing care to young children during the day while their parents are at work. But that's starting to change because of what we know about brain development. The first 5 years are truly the most important years in brain development. That's when the most brain growth happens, and that's when those sensitive periods for development are the most vulnerable. And so we understand that now. That means that our profession needs to really emphasize quality, and that means we need to pay folks what they deserve. If I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood education and I'm making minimum wage, I'm not going to stay in early childhood education. I'm going to move on. And in fact, that's when you think about the professors in our program, we all started as childcare professionals or those working in early childhood. And we worked our way through. And I remember having my first job, and I worked in childcare for 5 years and thinking, I'm getting a bachelor's degree. I can make a lot more money if I worked in K-12. And then in K-12, I'm like, I can make a whole lot more money if I'm an administrator, and then I got my master's degree. Wow, I can make a whole lot more money if I'm a professor at a community college. And so that just has to do with how we value the field right now. Early childhood professionals are underappreciated and underpaid. And as we professionalize the field, we need to change that. We need to pay folks what they're worth. And if we know that those first 5 years are the most important in brain development, we need to expect our early childhood professionals to have advanced degrees, and we need to pay them appropriately. So, what do I mean by oversight? So, child care centers are licensed. If you have a center that's open 5 days a week and you are serving children for more than 4 hours a day, you have to be licensed through the state of Washington to be able to operate that child care center. And these links are in the PowerPoint if you want to go back to them. Our licensing body is no longer the Department of Early Learning. It's the Department for Children, Youth, and Families, and that department has kind of taken over all of early learning as well as our foster care system, and anything that has to do with children, youth, and families. And childcare falls as just one of those pieces under that umbrella. And then program quality and accreditation. We have the National Association for the Education of Young Children. That is the biggest and broadest accountability institution or organization in our profession. Then there's the National Child Care Association and the National Family Child Care Association. And then we also have some quality measures, and we'll talk more about these later in the quarter, but the CLASS is the Classroom Assessment and Scoring System, and this tool rates teacher-child interactions and helps teachers understand their role in the classroom. So it's a tool that's used on teachers. I hate saying that, on teachers, but it's used on early childhood teachers as a professional development tool. So a rater comes in and they observe in the classroom 20 minutes at a time, and they rate the teacher's interactions with the children, and then they are able to provide the teacher with a report of their strengths and areas for growth. And we'll go over class more in depth, but other quality measures also include the ECERS, the Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale, that looks primarily at the environment. And so that could include the materials in the environment, the layout of the environment. And so those two together kind of cover quality measures in early childhood education. And then for folks who are interested in becoming certificated teachers working pre-K special education through 12th grade, we do have the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, or OSPI. Right now, the Superintendent of Public Instruction is Chris Reichdahl, and he is kind of the governing official that makes decisions about all things related to K-12 education. And they are also the certifying body for folks who want teacher certification. So if you're thinking that you want to go on into our Bachelor's of Applied Science in Teaching, you will also have to do a background check through OSPI, and your teacher certification will come through OSPI and Pierce College. In 2008, I know this says 2011, but it really started in 2008 during the Obama administration. The state of Washington and all 50 states were able and eligible to apply for the Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge grant. And we were awarded, as Washington State, $60 million, and we are still seeing the advantages of those millions of dollars today. Many of you are here as students in the Early Achievers program. That Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge Fund is paying for your tuition. That's where the funds come from for early achievers. And those dollars also pay for our quality rating and improvement system, which we also call Early Achievers, all the same thing. And so Early Achievers is a program that really serves to improve the quality of early learning programs across Washington State. And in the beginning, participation in Early Achievers was voluntary. And over the years, it's almost been a decade. I can't believe that. It just reminds me how old I am. I remember when all of this was happening. I was an administrator for an early learning program, and to see this unfold over the course of a decade has been amazing. I have seen programs improve. I have seen um, Washington State's early learning programs move from a field to more of a professionalized specialty, and it's been really amazing. But there were overall state goals were to increase the number of low-income and disadvantaged children enrolled in high-quality early learning programs. So use those dollars to also increase um, enrollment slots for folks participating in ECAP. ECAP is the Early Childhood Education and Assistance Program. And so we went from serving folks at 150% of the federal poverty level to serving folks at 200% of the federal poverty level, which increased the amount of folks who are eligible for the program. And then we said, now it's an entitlement. If you qualify, you have a spot. There used to be waiting lists, but the state said now it's an entitlement. Everyone that's qualified deserves a spot and will get a spot. So we had to increase classrooms. We had to increase program size to accommodate that. We also worked on designing and implementing an integrated system of high quality early learning programs and services, along with the assessments like CLASS and the ECERS that I talked about earlier to ensure high quality programming. And then also something that we had to start doing in Washington State early learning is ongoing child assessments. Every program involved in Early Achievers had to select an assessment system for ongoing child assessment. And so maybe you've heard of Teaching Strategies Gold, or it's just called Gold now, I think. Maybe you've used HighScope or Galileo. But those programs are assessment programs for the continued development of young children. And so teachers collect data, they take observations, they keep anecdotal records to really take a snapshot of children's development in time over time. And that was a requirement. That didn't used to be a requirement in early learning. We were just able to decide if we were going to do assessment or not. And so some programs really accepted that change and some struggled with it. But now a lot of programs see the benefit of doing ongoing child assessment as a way to support child development. And then Early Achievers is our Quality Rating and Improvement System, or QRIS, in the state of Washington. I'm going to do this slide and then I'm going to pause because I'm about to run out of time here. But this was voluntary for licensed child care centers, and more centers have been applying to be Early Achievers. And that's where if you are thinking about working in early childhood right now, but you haven't made the leap or you haven't applied, look for programs that are Early Achievers rated, because those are the programs that can pay your tuition and books. It helps early learning programs offer high quality care. It connects families to childcare and early learning programs. There's a database that parents can look up to find which programs are Early Achievers rated and what their ratings are. Like if I'm a parent, I'm not going to send my kid to a 2-star program. I'm looking for those 3- and 4-star programs, right? And there's coaching and resources for childcare providers. So we have a whole bank of coaches and early achievers who go on site to programs to provide in-time professional development. And it's pretty awesome. And so if that's a career goal too, like if you're thinking like, oh, I've been in childcare for a decade and I'm ready to make that next step in my career, maybe being an early achievers coach is something right up your alley. Something, if you're a teacher and you're looking to share your love and knowledge of early childhood education with other teachers, that might be a great fit for you. I'm going to pause here. We'll call this part 1 of the field of early childhood education. And when we come back, we'll complete this presentation.